right, let's go ahead and get started on the next session here. Next session is by Vilius Benetis from NRD Cyber Security in Lithuania, and he's going to be giving a talk on CSIRT and SOC modernization practices. Just a couple of reminders as usual. It's TLP white as the sign says down here in front. If you have any audio noises on your various devices, please silence those during the presentation, and then we'll save questions towards the end. And of course, we have the two microphones that you can step up to ask those questions so everyone can hear. Other than that, I will turn the stage over to Mr. Benetis, and we'll take it from there. All right.
Thank you very much. So welcome, everyone. As I understand, for some of you, it's already 6th day in placing everything in your heads and trying to understand the local culture, and then being awake and understanding that the coffee here is not as strong as the Italian one. So thank you very, very much for coming. When I was preparing presentation, I had no clue which day it's going to be. And for myself, as a practitioner, it takes a lot of mental energy to keep focused and still grab something from the presentations. I understand your situation as well. So I'll try to balance somehow the knowledge and highlight some things, but I think it's more relevant for you. So about me, I'm Vilius from Vilnius. For last many years, professionally, I'm practicing design thinking to build CSIRT, SOC type of organizations. Because the conference is first, that means for incident response teams, so the title I chose not to establish, but to modernize. Because I know that at least some of the people mentioned, for example, a person from Jersey is mentioning that we are kind of modernizing from almost nothing into something great. So please think then this modernization is about from where you are, where you're going to go. So there are so many of you. So some of you are from CSIRT, SOCs, ISACs, PSIRTs. So are there any managers? Managers meaning having at least one subordinate. Okay, a few? Good. I think the primary messages are for you. Are there incident handlers? Okay. I'm going to mention some words about what you should request to change in your environments for your life to be easier. Other roles in CERTs, SOCs, PSIRTs? Okay, some people. Then are there consultants who assist CERTs to be better? Okay. And are there vendors who provide automation for SOCs to work better? Okay, maybe they are. Okay, good. And then some others. Good. So what I'm going to talk, it's not theory because I believe it should work so, but because of what myself with my colleagues were doing around the world and trying to end up with places where CERT, SOC teams, when you look in the face, they are shining. The eyes are shining. That's how I read that. That's outer state. Somebody before this morning was asked, so how do we know that the CERT is good? That's my answer. My personal Vilius answer is, if I meet the person whose eyes are shining and he is passionate, that means he understands and he feels comfortable in the setup. That means he understands what he is doing in the organization, and he feels the purpose of what he is doing. And we're going to talk what actually it means. So why I chose to submit a talk. I haven't heard this being expressed anywhere else. Maybe there are some papers talking about it, but I've never seen. I try to read all the materials, new materials about design thinking in incident response teams. But I feel that all the incident response teams are increasingly expected to work as professional and effective organizations. What does it mean? That means that you can not only do the work what you're supposed to do, but you are supposed to engineer into better yourself in the future. So it's not only to do all the activities what are expected from all the stakeholders and resource stressful, etc., but you need to become better because, how I see, one is teams get bigger budgets, or they grow more, and if you grow more than 15 people, then suddenly you need to introduce the management practices and set it up. Or because of legislation, bigger mandate. Mandate means responsibility, authority for your team. And that comes, or national legislation, national cybersecurity frameworks, etc., etc. So from incident responders, suddenly it requires to be very professional government or national team, or sectorial one. So it's only, I think, 20 minutes left, so I cannot ensure that all of you get what's written, but at least when I was putting the message, I was hoping that it is at least going to touch on one of the points what might be interesting for you, or to inspire you, because I wish I could export and dump all my knowledge and thinking into something, but it's kind of tacit knowledge which cannot be written, unfortunately. So there's such publication by ENISA. Has anyone seen it? Yeah, so it was created by my team. Then we were tasked to create a publication. We were thinking, okay, but we have so many publications already done, so what's missing? So my colleague Romaldas said, actually, I've never seen something result-driven approach. There are a lot of books which say, you know, you should do that, you should think about this or this, but what exactly I should have in order to move forward in the process. So the picture here is from the draft, because then it's beautified and it's not so clear, and there are more colors and confusing in the book itself, but this is from the draft, what we submitted as outcome. So what's important, if we say that, so the life cycle, how we identified is that it's, usually we are probably in operations, and then we think about what to improve, then we design that improvement, implement that improvement, and again, organize in operations. We don't touch beginning phase. So for those who were in CERT-CC presentation of sectorial CERTs, you remember there are 6 steps. How to map here. Step 1 to 4, this part. Step 5, which was planning and implementation, is design implementation, so these 2 stages. And if you see, there's a lot of artifacts focusing on that way. And what touched Justin's sentence was saying, you know, on this part, a lot of teams rail off of the rails or get confused. So that's the essence of this work. So what does it mean? Currently, if you don't do anything, just operate, then you operate and measure what is the outcome, but you do something, and you think about end of a year, probably you need to look at annual operation performance review. So how much value we created. Then you talk around for your stakeholders, are you matching the expectations? And then you discuss what is the budget, is it increasing or decreasing? And if it's increasing, what other initiatives you can initiate and move forward towards improvement planning. So list of chosen initiatives for improvement. So out of big list, which were approved, the budget and the resources what you have, in line in doing something. For example, maybe you're a very tiny CERT or SOC, you create value, but it's not structured well. So maybe the improvement is to clarify the mandate, what we do and what we do not do, because if we say that we do something, mentally we mean that we don't do anything else, right? If we leave it, we do this and everything else, that's getting confusing, then lower chance of shining eyes. So in the team, it has to be a quite clear thing. So when we have improvement plan, then we have to get the improvement into the design. And there has to be, it can be as a separate document, it can be one document with that kind of chapters or answers. So what you need to think about in the modernization or improvement, you need to answer how this change gonna impact my mandate, what I have currently for my organization. What services, what I deliver, how they're going to be changed. Are we merging, are we increasing, are we reducing, what exactly the services. Out of these services, naturally the changes have to cascade down to processes and workflows, down to how it affects my organization. Is it separate division for a particular, is it another person, how we organize ourselves, skills and training structure, how we're going to acquire required skills, skills of knowledge and skills of needed of operation of the processes. Then facilities, where these extra people going to sit? Do we need extra doors to lock if we onboard more sensitive information, etc.? And then, only then it goes with technology. For the change, what do we need to do? Are we using the same technology? For example, during this conference, I talked with teams which use the Hive but do not have ticketing system for coordination work. So then it's possible to use open source like RTRR, or it's possible to use OTRS, what was in the corner, and hopefully many of you have talked to them and saw how it can be used practically. And then we need to update coordination plan. So then during this change, with whom we're going to talk differently and communicate differently, which stakeholders. For example, we established some digital forensic capability because we need to acquire something from mobile phones. Does it mean that we're going to talk differently with police or where else we can, what we're talking or plan to talk, or to the media or to others? So how we communicate. And as well, how we protect our operations. And then you say, okay, how do I implement myself, or I run the tenders for acquiring technology, or what do I do? And then implementation, it's then simple. You have a paper, plan, then you just execute on each of the point. And important part here, when you finish everything, launch communication and celebrations. I'm very bad at celebrating. I hope you are better, that when you achieve something, and celebration is important for others to get aware that you changed. Now you're going to do differently. So if you think from somewhere to somewhere better, there are particular activities what people or teams usually do. What are these activities? One is maturity, management of maturity. Assessing and then building a roadmap, for example, what I showed for the improvements. So there are two main maturity models what you can use. So I suggest you use one of them, or if you believe, or you are very much aligned to, for example, IBM as a vendor. IBM has their own maturity, but I consider that it's subset of good practices, which some of you maybe stay for SIM 3 for next week to get trained. SIM 3 is lightweight comparing to SOC CMM. Anyone tried SOC CMM? It's very, very detailed. It's big Excel sheet, Excel file, and then in order to drop to the 0 level, it takes 1 hour of clicking. I tried. So recently, Rob Van Os, maybe 3 weeks ago, he launched the licensing model, which comes with additional book, how for 500 euros as a support, you get the book as well, how to do self-assessments better, and go there. So I suggest at least to look at these two models to understand what maturity could bring to you, because nobody else can dump that knowledge into you, unfortunately. Another good area to focus on is to open the document which defines the expectations from you. So what authority do you have in organization or in the country, in the sector, or wherever? Sorry. And what is the strategy to achieve that? What authority and what responsibilities? And think, does your wife understand what it is? Or, or husband, or good friend, or your dog, or like, is it clear? If it's written, is it clear? How much unclarity is there, or in between the lines what's not clear? Because more you have unclear things, more of your service recipients get confused. So first of all, you have to be very, very clear what you do. For example, even mapping to the other models what I'm going to talk about, and then communicating that clear message. For example, because as in Justin's talk on sectorial one definition was sectorial CSIRT is responsible for incident coordination in the sector. Not coordination, resolution, or something like this. Then suddenly it's not clear what does it mean in the sector. So who defines what's, so any bank's incident is the role of sectorial CERT, or how does it work? If something is unclear, it's an opportunity to discuss and agree, because it's always about local context. Good, then services model. When you clarified what is expected from you, then you can see through which service model you can actually achieve that, how to map what exactly you're going to do in order for that clarity to be transformed in the serving way. Then for those who like to measure or understand or practice measure and you have enough energy, then KPIs. Here I'm going to show examples of monthly KPIs. The wonderful job is being done in Metric SIG on the instant metrics and KPIs. So there's going to be more publications on this from first. And reviewing the skills and competences from different models. So NIST NICE, have you heard about NIST NICE? It's a big database, big table of many positions with a lot of skills mapped and abilities and tasks and competences. Now, ENISA in Europe is about to publish in September 12 roles of cybersecurity in Europe. Drafts are already there on ENISA's website if you're interested to look at it. There's going to be a conference in Athens on this topic. Then the new work, what was done in first, is mapping CSIRT services framework into roles, 26 or 27 roles. I'm going to show the picture of it and where you can find it. Additionally, for skills and competences, in order to make clarity in your head and saying, this is what we do, and that means nothing else we do, to such level of clarity, you can check how to train your staff, including managers and others, into such situation. So what I just said, what actually is done, so if we look at it from design perspective, what we try to achieve, kind of four things. Clear CSIRT SOC governance model, extensive use of existing knowledge, appropriately, especially for those who just came back from auditorium. Martin was explaining about Mitre attack, how he tried to use and appropriately, and he got challenged. So you need to know which tool fits for what purpose. That's partially, I'm here to guide you for this as well, or inspire you. Balance resources, people, processes, technology, and then create for yourself, because there's no way to copy from others, valuable and applicable KPIs. What was that? So, for example, you could start, it's not something what you should copy, but you can flex your brains if you get enough coffee. So, for example, could it be so that my CERT and SOC main purpose of existence is to reduce negative overall impact of cybersecurity incidents? Can I identify with such statement? If not, what's not fitting, and then adjust and build something for yourself, for your team, to understand exactly what is the purpose you're serving. Because at the end of the day, that means the shining eyes of people understanding what's happening. For example, so this is strategic, but the two other ones are the meaning to establish CERTs. Probably for modernizing, it's not so relevant. I try to see in design thinking particular thing in models. So I see that this team, incident response capability, technical capability, operational capability is a box in the middle. And then there are interrelations. First is on the side, policymakers and CSIR, that's who are tasked to ensure that incidents are reduced, and then that's why the operational team is here. Then if you are national team, then this one is not applicable. What's important that you formalize relationships or semi-formalize relationships with law enforcement, intelligence agencies, private organizations, and research organizations as such. And your usually objective, tactically, it's incidents detection, coordination, resolution. Incidents being vulnerabilities, information gathering, etc. Depending on your role, are you coordinating or actually responding team? For whom? For digital asset protection. That's in simple. So I want to connect as well to overall picture in the country, because for sectoral CSIRTs talk, if somebody were there, then Justin was mentioning that you need to be aware and start from the what's around you and see how disruption will be. I would advocate start from your essence and then try to interrelate and then adjust to where. So all the cyber diplomacy, cyber literacy, cyber crime, cyber defense, cyber strategy, critical information infrastructures, and see how your team can adapt, create more value in your organization or in your country. Now, so this is what I have in front at my desk, besides me, always with me, with detailed structure. So the title is CSIRT Services Model. CSIRT, that's probably not a SOC, right? So for me, this picture represents incident response domain, where you can identify different type of organizations who choose the services. Now, if your CERT does something else, what's not here, not in 80 pages publication, then probably it's not an incident response, or it is supported a function. That's not the direct value creation to your constituency. For example, you write good documentation, documenting processes, etc., so it's not a service. So here's the services model. So how do I look at it if I think about different organizations? But it's just choose and pick. Just SOCs usually always pick monitoring, because when we say SOC, we expect to be infrastructure which is monitored. For CERTs, sometimes there is no monitored infrastructure. On the national sectorial level, probably then, or it's monitored in dark nets, dark webs, and other places. So these models are valuable as well to make clarity, understand. And here, there might be some challenges for you. For example, if you practice threat hunting, you're gonna see, oh, how come it's not in SOC or monitoring, but it's in situational awareness? Maybe next version is gonna be updated, but so far it's there. For communication, what's the difference between awareness training or knowledge sharing versus communication on threat intelligence? So by reading the Bible, the main book of first for CSIRT services, you can find the answers, or as well can discuss and then get some additional guidance. So what's new now is from last week, I think, these areas of services are mapped to the new roles. So 26 roles here. And then the usual suspects in trying to create in this practice in design thinking. And for example, incident analyst role is defined something like this, an additional text. Mapping to NIST nice competences, not the tasks, not the skills, because it's too detailed, you get confused there. And it's going to be now it's for the review. So if you have some thoughts on it before we creating it final in October, November, or December, you're very, very welcome. So if for particular services you don't know what kind of roles, how to do it, so this guidance is an additional one from from last week. The knowledge summary, SIM3, everywhere more and more for maturity of organization. Service model just mentioned. We often come to our RSIT taxonomy again, where vulnerabilities are vulnerable system is defined as a type of incident. That means when we work with vulnerabilities in the incident, they can be treated as incident response, even though maybe it's in another domain. Then SOC CMM for detailed diagnostics to tuning some bolts in your processes, IT systems responsibilities. Then there are a few setup guides. I, like most organization of American states, it's going to be renewed soon this year probably. It's a visual, it's inspirational. The national one as well is from GFCE. I think it's quite good and with case studies. CSIRT one, lovely as well. There are two versions. I think on the first website it's not so graphically nice comparing to what's on their website. And then membership in organizations to access the knowledge which is not written, because we can have it only by asking and getting replies. So the third area is where we balance, and the challenge is that the processes probably are not tuned to optimum. But now, in order to have processes, well-defined processes, we have to practice and then document what you do. If we start building on whiteboard, we can over-process, over-create something. So it's mostly about what we do and in incremental improvement. Very good talk was yesterday about documentation from and we saw. I think all of that as well is included here in processes. So for processes, how I see it, typically, so there's a service, at least there should be one process automating that service. And that, so definition, what are inputs, what are outputs, who's responsible, what it does, and then workflows. Workflows being procedure, so graphical workflows, where it starts, where it finishes, as well as the responsibilities and description of each of a step. And then it brings clarity. So that's what we do. And there could be, you know, begin in workflow, it could be start, doing something, finish. Or you split into two boxes because there's dependency. At first we do this, then we finish, we do other thing. And you cannot copy-paste from another organization, so you need to build it for yourself. For people, probably you lack skills and hands, and if the process is an expectation and the value creation is tuned well, then it should be easy for you to understand how many and why you need malware analysts. As a title and as a hands, same with digital forensic. Because what I hear, it's sexy terms. Malware analysts, digital forensic, penetration testers, something what technologists really want to associate with. In reality, probably it's not first priority for your organization according to the mandate. And the technology usually not fully utilized what is acquired. So I suggest you, I hope all of you went through the different vendors. As a homework, when you look in here, you could think, okay, I saw automation, 2 vendors, right? Where would they fit? For which services? I saw threat intelligence or CTM 360, probably here in situational awareness. Here in the model, we decided not to use threat intelligence because it's not a service. But what we say, it's situational awareness, where services are acquisition, analysis, synthesis, and communication out internally or externally. So it's a good thing to exercise and to say, okay, I have different technology stack and manual things, and maybe I'm thinking about introducing, for example, for fellows, Arctic Security. So what services that would allow me to automate and how? I come in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning to the office, what I'm going to do with this tool in order to successfully deliver the services. Good, and then KPIs. Probably it's not bad KPI. I was probably at night writing it. Well, it was like, does not create any value. It creates some value, but what's important as examples probably, so these are examples for you to think through and think, would it make a sense to you? So there's something what we measure and what we expect it to be. For example, number of open incidents at the end of the month, we expect through the month it should be more than 0, because if it's 0, then it's a question what kind of organization. Maybe it's okay, but usually there should be at least something. So how we validate to the management. If we see incident registered like reporting at the end of a month to see what actually happened this month and doing analysis. Checking, for example, if sectorial one, which constituency open tickets. And do we truly believe that others did not have incidents? And maybe that's another opportunity and reason to discuss how they're doing, especially if you have multiple departments and others. This one, total number of outstanding, not closed incidents in tracking system should not increase, because if it's increasing, it becomes red flag that we cannot cope, and we should do start taking decisions towards that. For example, close everything what's 2 months old. How much SLA breaches. Then other ones can be for awareness for other topics. So the presentation is going to be placed public, so it's for something to think about as a bootstrapping the thinking. Because probably you will never copy these, but they could be, oh, but actually we can have a look at particular service from another angle and think about it. Maybe that's what we're going to be and all the metrics should be what you imagine how you're going to use it. So you say, oh, I'm going to use it for this, and then talk to maybe to the management of annual report, etc. And if it is not useful, then you should stop collecting. Good. So another question what I got through the conference, but what is this CIRT or SOC the end? So here is a schema what we draw to illustrate that there are different sizes of teams. And what does it mean, different sizes? It means different complexity, different amount of people, different length to become strong operationally. And what I mentioned about audit, so for most complex teams, usually you already need SOC CMM and then target particular level. For normal operational teams of 7 to 15 people, SIM3 is kind of trying to target, for example, either TFC CERT certified level, SIM3, or if you are from European Union, then European Union basic, intermediate, advanced, and play with these markings. And smaller ones probably not measure. Now actually there should be, because if you are a member first, because we promote it very strongly, then here measurement should be, membership profile should be adhered. So what you can get from outside, what I see is probably these topics, what you can go around and ask. And there are different projects in that. For example, Cyber for Dev from European Union assists many countries, and you can ask on these topics to provide a consultancy or inspiration. And there are ecosystem of designers like us who practice this capabilities. So thank you very much. I hope it was relevant. The light is not showing if anybody was sleeping, so I did not see that. I hope it was valuable. And connect if you want to hear something. I couldn't find a definition of CERT, SOCs, these ISAC servers, and I got annoyed of it, so on LinkedIn page I wrote an article which I take as a definition for me, which comes from two statements. One is all of these organizations are organizations in incident response domain. And then second statement is depending on the title, for example, SOC, with primary objective to do monitoring and do other things what you want. CERT's primary objective, focusing on incident response workflow and do other things. ISAC's primary objective of sharing, collecting and sharing information, analysis and sharing, and doing other things. PCERT's, of course, for primary objective to manage the vulnerabilities of the products and doing other things as well. So, hope you liked it. Thank you very much. Hope to see you later.